CrossFit Games update show. It's the first day inside the StubHub Stadium, and fans filled it to the brim. Teams hit the pavement to begin their competition as well, and yet another event was revealed. How did the athletes handle that mixed bag of misery thrown at them today from the Rogue Fitness Little Shop of Horrors? And were there any changes to the leaderboard? All that and more. The CrossFit Games update show starts right now. Welcome to Carson, California for the CrossFit Games update show. It was the first day for teams, the second day for individuals, and another event was revealed. My name's Emily Turner. I'm here alongside Pat Sherwood and Caity Henniger. You guys, there was so much to watch today.
It was a great day. I'm still blown away by that little blue walking through the hallway thing we had in the intro. I'm still spellbound by it. But yeah, we get to see the teams come out and play, some new strategy. In the individual leaderboard, we have some familiar names at the top, but there's a lot of vacancies. You know, some big names aren't there.
Just so much going on in the venue today. First trip into the soccer stadium for all the athletes and all the fans. Just an amazing experience, amazing first day. Great way to kick it off.
And let's start out with this first event for the individuals. It was the Burden Run. Let me give you a recap of that event. It was a 2.1-mile run, a flip the pig for 100 yards, a 600-yard log carry, dragging then the Iditarod for 66 yards. Sam Briggs started in front, didn't stay that way.
And this is your pass by Ladera's here, and I must admit, you know, you see the event in your head, and I thought they'd be moving quicker than that, but slippery surface down there in the tunnel.
Yeah, and I think as they came into the soccer stadium here, you saw a lot of the females struggle with this sled pull. You see Ladera's struggling just to get to that finish line, and you can see her here. Am I done?
Yeah, and she excelled at this event. I caught up with her earlier. She ran half marathons and full marathons previous to CrossFit, and she said that sled, as you saw, you got about halfway point and just felt like you hit a brick wall.
In fact, we caught up with her just after this event, and this is what Kalina had to say to us.
When I picked up the log, I really thought it was going to be a lot worse than it was. When I realized it wasn't that bad, at least that's how I felt, I was like, all right, you know what, take a deep breath, control your breathing, and just go, because I knew the sled was going to be terrible.
All right, so Kalina on top in first place. Let's take a look at who else finished well in this workout. We have Kalina in first, then we have Ruth Anderson-Harrell in second, followed by Sam Briggs, the overall leader going into this day, in third. Anything surprise you guys here?
Well, I like that, you know, the top four are women that I know enjoy running. Briggs, Phillips, Harrell, and Ladera. So right off the bat, this seems to be a runner's workout to me, and the leaderboard reflects that.
Yeah, and I think Sam Briggs told us yesterday she was going to go out fast. She did push the pace, but I think she may have went out a little too quick, leaving the door open for Harrell and Ladera's to pass her.
But is there anybody looking at these top few names that you find surprising that's not up there?
I mean, some of the previous champs, right? You know, Kristen Clever's not quite there. Where's Elizabeth Akinwale? Lindsay Valenzuela is moving down a little bit. Camila Blanc-Bazinet. I mean, there's some big names that we're not seeing at the top.
And it was a very similar storyline when it comes to the men who also did this event. One person started out in the run. That person wasn't able to quite finish it. Garrett Fisher is the one who started out in the lead.
Garrett Fisher, NorCal boy, you know, spending his time with Jason Khalipa, and he's had the same track coach as Jason Khalipa. He's doing, you know, the 800-meter runs, the mile repeats, the 16-mile runs. So no surprise he did well on the run.
Yeah, and he gets here, he gets to the pig. It's about a 500-pound, you know, basically tire flipper here, and just really struggled. It really opened the door with his struggle for Jason Khalipa to come in and take the lead.
And you can see him looking at his hands. We actually caught up with him, and he talks about this pig flip. Well, we'll try and get that soundbite to you in just a minute. But anyway, what ended up happening is he gets to the pig, and he just is unable to flip it. Okay, here, we have this soundbite for you now. Let's hear what he has to say.
I came out the run feeling great, got to the pig first, well before everybody, and it was just awkward, it was wet, my hands were getting cut up from it. It was really, really heavy, and that was definitely the hardest part.
Who did do well here in this pig flip? Kalipa.
Of course, you know, I mean, Jason Kalipa known for, you know, you have some athletes that are more like a scalpel, very surgical, and some are just a kind of a chainsaw and brute force, and that's Jason Kalipa. But he did well on the run, you know, for him, but then once he got to the pig, he is in his wheelhouse. Let's just take the complexity out and move some heavy stuff.
Yeah, did well enough in the run to keep him in the running here, but just exploded out on this pig and then actually picked up the pace a little bit with the log and was able just to drive through with this Iditarod sled.
He had a significant lead as soon as he got out from that pig into the log and then into the sled, as you said. Ben Smith coming in second with a hard push right there at the end, followed closely in second by Daniel Petro. You know who did not, though, have a fantastic showing? Well, that is reigning champ Rich Froning.
Yeah, it didn't go how Froning wanted to. You see Garrett Fisher on the right looking over and seeing himself pass, you know, the champ. And Rich Froning looking very human, struggling clearly right here. And what happened last year for the football sled, he struggled with the sled then as well, Katie.
Yeah, and it had to be so frustrating here. He got about a foot from the finish line and just could not get himself across the finish line to finish that event.
It's certainly a disappointing end for him, and we caught up with him after this to find out what he thought about how he placed.
I knew on the run I didn't want to get myself in too big of a hole, but it was a little bit, I was too far back to catch up, but I don't think I could have went any faster on the run. I wouldn't have been able to do that pig as fast as I did. So long weekend, so keep grinding.
All right, and looking at the leaderboard after this event, or for this event, I should say, you can see Rich Froning right there in 7th place, Kalipa, Ben Smith, Daniel Petro.
You know, I'm just not ready yet to say that this isn't going Rich's way. I mean, I remember just before the CrossFit Games began, there was some sort of tweet that he sent out that was like, I can't wait till the games are over so I can stop all this running crap. Yeah. So he doesn't like running in a running event. He takes 7th. That's good enough for him to do what he needs to do, which is just keep creeping back towards that top 3.
You know, Kalipa winning 3 of the first 4 events. I'm not sure. People thought he would do well.
Right.
I'm not sure they thought he would do that well.
I didn't think he'd do that well. That was shocking.
Well, and one thing is that speaks to it's just a testament to our sport and to his athleticism, because it's easy not to take a former Games champion seriously because, oh, the athleticism, the bar has been raised. But here he is just kicking butt and doing really well.
You know, year after year, consistently one of the best CrossFitters. That's why he was invited over to that European Invitational, things of that nature. And, again, I know him pretty well from being from NorCal. He took an honest assessment of himself and put it into the work where he needed it, and we're seeing Jason Kalipa cash in that check.
Yeah, all great news. Okay, now coming up after this break, the teams, it was their first day of competition. We're going to break down what happened there. We're also going to tell you about the rest of the men's and women's events. It was an exciting day. We have so much coming up just after this. We'll be right back.
What do we call something that is hugely defining of individuals? It's the blind and relentless, constant pursuit of excellence. You make people better. I'm gonna let you decide what better is. And you're gonna come tell me, did your exposure, did your coming in here make you better? I know the answer.
And welcome back to the CrossFit Games update show here in Carson, California. It was day 1 for the teams. They had 2 events, exciting stuff, and kind of an upset at the end of first day. Hacks Pack The reigning champs not on top.
If you're a fan of the CrossFit Games, you should be so excited just because of all the turmoil. I mean, again, Froning, I would have bet my life that he'd be on top. He's not. And Hackspack, look at the cross-regional comparison. I mean, they blew it away, 5 event records, and they're not in the lead.
Yeah, I think being the reigning champ, you know, coming in here after the regional performance, I think everybody in the building thought they would be in first place, and they had a great performance, just not atop the leaderboard.
Their great performance today was in the team burden run. That was the first one they tackled today. It was a 2.1-mile run. The women flip the pig for 50 yards. The men carry 4 45-pound plates. Then the men add that weight, and they flip the pig for 50 yards. And they have a 650-yard worm carry, which is this contraption you see right here. And boy, I'll tell you, it dominated a lot of teams, but not Hackspack.
I mean, just watch Hackspack right there pick up the worm. I mean, that level of smoothness that you saw, they executed the entire time, whether switching their formations. It was just cool, calm, and collected.
Yeah, I think one of their biggest strengths is their communication, and that starts with their leader in Tommy Hackenbrook. You know, they had one person calling out the orders. They finished well here, and they always work well as a team and always excel in these 6-person events.
It's pretty cool to see them in action. In fact, let's hear from Tommy Hackenbrook himself about what he had to say about specifically teamwork.
With the worm, we'd done stuff like that before last fall at a SEAL Fit camp down in Encinitas, so we'd done a lot of practice with logs. The strategy on that was once you get up on the shoulder, you know, the communication, you have one person giving commands, everyone else follows. Just one chief is the best way to go on that one.
Well, they obviously proved that right because their one chief got them a first-place win. Let's see who else took the leaderboard in this event. Obviously, Hackspack on top, followed by Nordic CrossFit, and then a familiar name, CrossFit Fort Vancouver in third.
Yeah, and we expected to see Fort Vancouver do well, rewind the clock just a little bit, 2010, and they walked away as the Games champions that year for the team side.
So there you see it again, Hackspack at the top, Team Reebok CrossFit Nordic in second, and CrossFit Fort Vancouver in second. But this was just the first portion of their workouts because essentially they went right into this second event. That is the Iditarod, and let me tell you what that is. It is basically 3 different sled pulls, 1 man, 1 woman on each. The first is 135 pounds, the second 180, the third 225 pounds. And watching this, it got ugly.
Oh my, it was so, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, the sled I believe weighs about 175 pounds just empty. So those loadings that you hear don't tell the whole story. I watched this today, mouth agape, spilling my drink. I couldn't believe what I saw. You're like, oh, it's going to be hard. It stopped these people in their tracks after the lightest load was done.
And they were doing everything, pulling at the grass, crawling, doing anything to get this sled to move.
I mean, zigzag to the left, go to the right, get a little slack in it, then try to tension the thing. Nothing was working, but some teams just excel with it because in every single heat, even the heaviest heats, some 2 or 3 would just move across and others looked like somebody just dropped a boat anchor and they weren't going anywhere.
Well, these are the 3 teams according to each weight that did well. CrossFit New England did well, CrossFit Select, and then you can see right there in third place, CrossFit Fraser Valley. Now, there was another story that came out of the morning, a very serious story, essentially, and it has to do with an injury, and this was Front Range CrossFit.
And nobody wants to see an injury go down, right? I mean, we had an injury to one of the team members' fingers. We're throwing hundreds of pounds overhead. You're doing squat cleans. You're running with things. You're climbing on rings and ropes 15 feet in the air, exhausted. I mean, there's just going to be a chance to get something pinched, twisted, sprained, and unfortunately that happened today with Front Range.
Yeah, you're seeing the finger here, but they had another member that we've heard that she may have ruptured her eardrum doing the worm carry. I don't know if a log hit her in the head or what happened, but they are not sitting in a very good place here with 2 injured performers.
But one thing that they are doing is they're still sitting in. We talked to somebody from this gym about why they're not pulling out. This is what they had to say.
So we were coming into the finish for the worm carry. It was a huge mess. It was a big cluster. We went to put the log down, and one log landed vertical, and the other log landed vertical on top of that, and caught my index finger in between the 2 pieces and broke the tip of it, and caused about 12 stitches and 3 stitches on the other finger. Front Range wants to still compete. We did a lot of work to get here. Trained together for a long time, and really want to do everything we can. So if there's not a minimum work requirement that I need to complete, then we're going to go out there and work. And if there's anything I can do, then I'm going to go out there and contribute to the team.
Talk about the CrossFit spirit right there.
I fully support what they are doing. I know maybe it's just my background, but like if you have an opportunity to compete, you move forward with it, even if you're seriously injured. It remembers back to when I threw down at the games in 2009, Nicole Gordon, who's just tough as nails, you know, hard as Chinese arithmetic. She like smashed her finger on the stake drive, bloody, covered in blood, still rowing with like a finger bloody everywhere. I mean, just you're here, you've worked this hard, and just keep going as long as you can.
Yeah, I think, you know, they've put in all that work. If they can go out there, you know, I love seeing this. If they can go out there and do the work, go do it.
Well, one of the things that makes this so notable is the fact that they went into this next workout. Well, I mean, you kind of need your hand for a workout that's called legless, right? Here's the workout. Essentially, each member has to complete 15 thrusters, then 3 legless rope climbs, 12 thrusters, 2 legless rope climbs, 9 thrusters, 1 legless rope climb. I mean, you need your hands in order to get through. The crazy part is they are still not in last place.
Exactly. It paid off.
Even after that. And, you know, one of the things about CrossFit is going back through the history of the games. I feel like the athletes had to know that some form of rope climb was coming because there is a long history with CrossFit of rope climbing.
The CrossFit Games is the proving ground for the fittest athletes on Earth. To live up to that title, athletes must be incredibly adaptable to unforeseen challenges. Few standard CrossFit movements present problems for the fittest on Earth, with one very tall exception: the rope. Like a long, thin measuring stick, proficiency on the rope cannot be faked. In various incarnations, ropes have appeared in past competitions, always surprising both athletes and spectators by the curveballs they deliver. Most famously, the rope was the deciding factor in the 2010 CrossFit Games, where Graham Holmberg's ease helped him maintain the edge on a surging then-newcomer Rich Froning in the final event. The consequence of Rich's inability was enormous, a weakness that was addressed immediately and put to bed in the first event of 2011. Despite this ominous history, the rope has continued to steal dreams and unravel scores in competition. Like the iron, the ropes don't lie.
Anybody who watched those games remembers the moment where Rich could not climb that rope. And when it comes to this workout, it's like watching dying zebras when some of these women couldn't make it to the top of the rope. It was so hard to watch.
Yeah, and I'm the sole gentleman, surrounded by 2 ladies here, so hopefully I won't take my heads off. But this event, your success or failure, was largely determined by the strength of your ladies and their ability to climb a rope without the legs.
And what I am sure was so frustrating to these ladies is they would get about a foot from the top of the crossbeam where they needed to touch, and then they just couldn't make that last final pull and ended up sliding down the rope.
But, you know, it wasn't all failures. We had a great success. Leah Pulaski, you know, she was the first woman to actually complete making her way up the rope without her legs, and, you know, broke down and cried after, just because it was such a powerful, emotional moment for her.
There she is, first woman to complete all of the rope climbs and actually make it the entire way through that workout. You see her come down, greet her team. Obviously very emotional there because that is quite the struggle. Now, as you said, it came down to which team had the most women complete the most rope climbs, and there was a tie for first place.
Yeah, and the tie was, you know, it all came down to, again, once again, could the women get up there or not. And I love you'd get right up to the top here, and that it's almost like a decision has to be made. And it's that kind of crazy athlete, like, should I make this almost dynamic move? And we see some teams go for it.
And that's CrossFit Dynamics that you see right there. They were tied with CrossFit Dallas Central.
An interesting note for CrossFit Dallas Central, they actually, in last year's games, they did not do well on the rope clean event, and it kept them out of the final heat. So coming back, getting redemption here is a great way to start this event.
And speaking about final heat, so Dynamics ties with them, and we set up the event so that hopefully, you know, times get faster and you have the faster teams and athletes in the later heats. But Dynamics wasn't in the final heat, so, you know, you can have something like a legless rope climb come up, and you never know, one of the first heats, one of the quote-unquote slower heats, may produce a time that will stand all day long.
And that's really the cool part of the sport. We weren't able to catch up with Dynamics, but we were able to catch up with CrossFit Dallas Central, and they were very excited about that win.
For us, it was about being, fast but consistent through thrusters. And then obviously this is a rope climb workout. And so we had scheduled rest in between each climb. Spencer Nix, our coach, was like, hey, this is our game plan. Do not break from this. This is what you're gonna do if you miss, but you're not gonna miss.
And strategy is super important, and one of the benefits having been in that last heat. So here you go, looking at this, CrossFit Dallas Central tied with Team Dynamics, then Hacks Pack, and Invictus right behind there. This takes us into our overall leaderboard for the day. At the end of the team's first day, going into the second day, looking at this big upset, CrossFit Dallas Central at the top, Hacks Pack in second, Invictus in third.
And again, expecting to have Hacks Pack in the lead, I'm like, CrossFit Dallas Central, like, what are they doing? Then you take a look, and I've said it before, consistency is your friend if you want to do well at the CrossFit Games. And I look at their stats after a competition, they are almost all top 10 finishes. We've got an 11 and 11, a 4, a 2, and a tie for first. You couldn't ask for a better day one.
Couldn't ask for a better start, and if they continue that consistency, they're going to set themselves up for maybe a podium spot at the end of the weekend. But if you look at that leaderboard, you got CrossFit Invictus, you have CrossFit New England, people who have been to the games before that are going to push for that top spot.
Well, either way, between first and second, essentially 1 point, there's going to be a race, and that's going to be fun to watch. Now, we talked about the rope climb event with the teams. The men and women also had to tackle that sucker. We'll tell you how that ended up coming up just after this break.
CrossFit Games champion, Jason Khalifa, ladies and gentlemen, the 2008 CrossFit Games champion.
What do we call something that is hugely defining of individuals? It's the blind and relentless, constant pursuit of excellence. You make people better. I'm gonna let you decide what better is. And you're gonna come tell me, did your exposure, did your coming in here make you better? I know the answer.
Welcome back to the CrossFit Games Update Show live in Carson, California. It was the first day for teams. We've talked about that, but it was the second day for the individuals. We've already mentioned their morning, the burden run, but they had 2 workouts in the afternoon, one known and one unknown. What they knew? Well, that is the zigzag sprint. And let me tell you exactly what that was. It's a 50-yard sprint with 4 obstacles, and they had to go through it in heats, the top 3 of each heat, then moved forward. When it came down to the women, cool thing about this, none of the women in the top 10 were in that final heat.
No, this has been, once again, some familiar names not where we think they should be, and it was a very exciting event to watch. I actually got to sneak away from my professional duties and get up to the top of the stadium and just watch it, and it's just one of the few just straight up speed and agility tests. Nothing complicated about it. It is what it is.
We talked to Sam Briggs about this event, and she said it actually takes 50 meters for her legs to actually start working. So not a good event for her, but a great event for some of these ladies.
Specifically this one.
And so the better that you do, the more you go in heat after heat after heat. And Michelle Crawford just ran away with it, no pun intended. Caught up with her earlier, and she said, she was very confident after the fact that she expected to do well. She was a U.S. field hockey player for years, and they did that drill or similar ones over and over again. And she was actually the one that would help set the times that the junior teams would have to chase, and so directly in her wheelhouse.
We were able to actually catch up with her on camera, and this is what she said about that victory.
The event definitely played to my strengths. Being a field hockey player my whole life, with cutting and quick sprinting is all that whole game. I didn't really have a strategy. I just had to go, stay low around the turns and go. Yeah.
So Michelle Crawford on top at this event. Lindy Wall placing second. Stacy Tovar in third. Are you guys surprised by any of these names?
Well, I'm not this intelligent. I'll tell you what, the Michelle Crawford gave me this little tidbit that she expected Lindy Wall to be nipping at her heels because she's also a soccer player and used to drills like that.
Yeah, and I think a lot of the females that were used to drills like this were excited for this to come up, and some of the other ones that had never done this before, they were not excited. But the survive and advance makes this very interesting, very cool.
And if you follow the CrossFit Twitter feed, there is a photo of Stacy Tovar doing this event. Look at that photo and you'll understand why she was in third. All horsepower, she's made to sprint.
Well, man, that's quite the tease. Now everybody at home is going on their phones and they're trying to get that picture on Twitter. It's going to overload. There was also some really exciting things that happened in the men's race. Literally, it was a race, neck and neck, down to a tiebreaker in the second to last between Ben Smith and Marcus Philly. So they went through that. Ben Smith won going into this final heat.
And that is why this year, we tested with the Central East Regionals. We have those chips. Some of the times are going to be literal photo finishes that a stopwatch just would not cut it.
Yeah, and I think Dan Bailey ends up and he edges out Marcus Hendren in this event. Marcus Hendren won this event. And Dan Bailey actually had a slip, and that's what caused him to lose that at the finish.
It came down, though, even with that slip, to a photo finish. I mean, they were so very close. And in this event, it looks like it came down to Marcus Bailey. Look, just barely crossing the finish line. Marcus Hendren just crossing the finish line right before Dan Bailey, and then followed by Asia Bartow. So that's our leaderboard for this event. Marcus in first, Dan Bailey in second, followed by Asia Bartow in third. And Pat, you were saying you're surprised by this.
Well, Dan Bailey, I expect him to be fast as well, but Asia Bartow shocks me finishing third, but he's the type of guy, he shocks me because, stereotypically, tall people are not supposed to be good at Olympic lifting. Well, very tall people shouldn't be good at these quick cutting agility drills like Dan Bailey, short and powerful, but Asia Bartow coming in strong.
Yeah, he's a former baseball player, so I'm sure he's done some of these type of drills before, so I think that probably set him up to do well in this event.
And this was just the first. Obviously, there was a final event, and this was the unknown. Yet another reveal, and that reveal was a workout that we've already kind of mentioned with the teams. A little bit different for the individuals. It's called legless. 27 thrusters, 4 legless rope climbs, 21 thrusters, 3 rope climbs, 15 to 9 and 1. And do you want to talk about a super exciting workout to watch? This was awesome.
I mean, it's beautiful CrossFit. It's kind of this weird, how many ways can we play with Fran, right? It's a beautiful push-pull of the thruster, and instead of the pull-up, we're going to throw in 10 rope climbs. Why not?
And I think one of the coolest things is they didn't know what this event was today until about 3 o'clock. They walked into the stadium. They saw, the rig up. They saw the ropes down. And I think you could see them processing, what are we going to be doing on this rig?
Sort of swinging.
Made it a very cool aspect to this event.
And the women, they were the ones who went first. And it came down to only 2 ladies who were actually able to complete this event. Let's take a look at the highlights from the winner.
What an exciting event to watch. We were all in the trailer watching this, literally screaming at the television. We might as well have been there because some women needed to make some big moves, and they did.
Yeah, Alessandra Pacelli here. You can see she's got this great technique, a kipping technique, which Pat caught up with her earlier and said that was a planned thing.
Yeah, she said that, the technique wasn't an accident. That technique was not an accident. She has this kip where she tries to keep her arms very straight, and she'll kip up, throw her next arm up locked out, so she doesn't really pull with her biceps to try to save her arms in case she does need them later. Very, very intelligent.
Well, very, very intelligent and very, very effective because she won this event. Andrea Pacelli in first, Christy Phillips in second, and then Carruthers and Vobaril tied for third on that event.
And Christy Phillips as well, we talked to her and she said, she's no stranger to, having to deal with just using your hands.
Yeah, at her affiliate, CrossFit MHP, she said their ceiling wasn't high enough, so they had to do legless rope climbs to get in a rope climb workout.
Oh, well, that turns out that it worked out
very well
perfectly for her. Now, the men went second after this in this workout. I actually got the chance to go into the stadium for this one, and I tell you, there was not a single person sitting down. Everybody was on their feet because it is that type of workout. And there was an interesting story here when it comes down to the heats as well.
Once again, you know, we didn't have the fastest time come out of the last heat of the day. You know, we got the show early on with our man Josh Bridges.
You know, talking to him before this event, he was so excited. Loves thrusters, loves rope climb, but he also knew he needed to make a move in this event to climb his way up the leaderboard.
He wanted to be in that last heat. You know, this is somebody who came in, he wants to win it. He had to take last year off. He wants to make the move to get there.
And he's custom built for this event. I mean, you could tell by the pace of his thrusters, he wasn't holding anything back. And his job in the military, I can tell you from experience, involves a tremendous amount of very high rope climbs. Great job by Josh.
Clearly very excited. He placed first in this event. You can see here, Gary Helmick in second, Kenneth Leverage in third. Cool stuff right here.
And we had some very heartbreaking failures. You know, we said it with the ladies, so we have to hold the guys to the same account.
Absolutely.
We saw Lucas Parker, you know, just trying to finish that last rope climb and couldn't. And Matt Chan, heartbreaking, with 45 seconds left, one rope climb.
Yeah, and I think he actually tried it 3 or 4 times and just would get about a foot away and just could not complete it.
So, I mean, that's just to take that in at home, where some of these guys like Josh can make this look so easy, but don't mistake that. This is an incredibly demanding event that some of the best athletes in the world were just stopped dead in their tracks.
Well, let's take a look at how this event set them up going into tomorrow. So at the end of day 2 for the individuals, for the women, Caity, I mean, if we had put money on it, which we should have, you called it.
Christy Phillips. I am so impressed with her, and you know, she's always hovering there on the leaderboard in their last few games. She's finally in that top position, and I think she has set herself up. You know, we talked to her after this legless rope climb, and she said, you know, there's another running event with Naughty Nancy tomorrow. She is really excited, in a good spot.
And look at the newbies, right? Pacelli, Tunnicliffe, Zambard. I mean, how exciting is that 3 out of the top 5 are occupied by rookies that you don't. These women are untested up to now, but they are crushing it. And Lindsay Valenzuela, okay, look, we broke a barbell out, but then we threw another monkey wrench at her saying you can't use your feet, and she's still hanging in there at number 6.
Yeah, and tomorrow we've got overhead squats, so I'm sure she's excited about that. Now let's move over to what the men have to say. At the end of the day, not a lot changed at the very tip top. Kalipa still in first, so you can win some money on that one, I guess.
Exactly. Kalipa's still in first, and once again, he didn't look super comfortable climbing the rope with no legs, but he did what he needed to do and remains in first place.
But who's looming? The champ.
Up.
Rich Froning. He is 10 points out.
Yeah.
About. And, you know, Garrett Fisher, the rookie, we thought, you know, he had a good showing in the burden run. And I think, you know, as Pat has said multiple times, training with Jason Kalipa, training with elite competitors has set himself up to do really well this weekend.
It's cool to see the rookies get in there and then stay there, because it's, you know, you don't want, you would think necessarily, oh, it's a fluke, they're new, they just did really well. But now, you know what? They're saying it's not a fluke. I deserve to be here.
I mean, I think the battle that's shaping up, Garrett Fisher, extraordinarily impressive, and I will be very impressed if he maintains being in that top 3. I think that Kalipa will. I think Garrett's an unknown, but Mr. Froning is just very quietly taking 7s, taking another win here, you know, just making his way back up. That I think he's going to look to just kind of push Garrett out of the side, move himself into second, and then it's going to be him and Kalipa just battling.
You know, we heard him say in that earlier interview, it's a long weekend.
Yes.
And I think we've been talking about that as well. You know, he can do really well in the events coming up, and, you know, I think he may overtake Kalipa tomorrow.
And Rich had an interesting point talking to someone else who said if you actually just add up all the times that these events have taken, that after 2 days of competition, that they have competed for a longer duration than the entire CrossFit Games last year, and we still have 2 full days.
And that throws an entirely different monkey wrench in there. It shows, can you recover? Are you able to really manage yourself throughout an entire weekend? So it brings the mentality almost into play a little bit more.
Yeah, this has been perhaps a larger test of endurance due to just how long these guys are being under the gun than we've seen in the past.
And the rest of that weekend continues tomorrow right here at the StubHub Center. You can watch all of it on ESPN3, every heat of every single event. However, we'll be here live too, right here in Carson, California, from the very same set with the Update Show. For Caity Henniger, Pat Sherwood, and myself, Emily Turner, have a great night, and we will see you back here tomorrow.